India, for instance, with the right to information, it's kind of fueled a lot of optimism within people, even if it's not led to the kind of systemic changes one would imagine. So, I mean, if you take that and transpose that onto a worldwide scale, that's what WikiLeaks is doing. Okay, it's giving us a sense that one can, however high you may be, you have the opportunity of being exposed on a global scale, and that is something that's greatly valuable, and that's something governments, and that's the reaction that you're seeing. It's the reaction to that. The fact that one man or one group of people could have the audacity to expose a lot of governments on a worldwide scale. So that's the reflexive action. That's
reflexive, and
understandable.
was pointing out there, not in this particular case, but when you're talking about policy, maybe politicians would look at shaping public opinion rather than reflecting on that. Let's go back to London and Christian Raffenson. Mr. Raffenson, we seriously see this as a serious problem. You seriously see it as a serious problem. What happens now if you cannot raise the finances? Julian Assange saying that you may have to shut down.
What simply happens if we don't get funding is that we will run out of funds in the next few months, and we will not be able to finance our operation. That's as simply as that.
A few months is all you're giving yourself. Well, Julian Assange also yesterday in London in a press conference said that one of the strongest bases of support in terms of donations comes from India. You are also looking at other ways of picking up finances, not through MasterCard, not through Visa, not through PayPal. Tell us how important really is India for you? You're looking at picking up money maybe through SMSs and minute amounts of money, say 5 rupees from a person.
India is very important for us, and we feel a great support for what we are doing in India, and it is one of the nations where we feel one of the strongest support. What we have pointed out on our website, on wikileaks.org, are ways to circumvent this blockade by other means, by sending MoneyGram, by sending checks to a local address in India, for example. So there are still some ways to donate to us, and we certainly hope that and urge Indians to support us in this battle.
You're looking at more innovative ways of picking up money there. Prashant, just coming back to you on that question. Are you surprised that India, they're saying, gives them such a big support base, and these alternative methods that they're looking at picking up minute amounts of money from various people, which is turning out to be millions?
Look, I have two things. One is that it's very natural, I think, to turn to India, because in India, 6 lakh, the last year, 6 lakh RTI applications are filed only to several government ministers. So that's 6 lakh people or more who want information. So it's understandable that we have a huge demand base of people who see the value of information. But on the other hand, the flip side of my, I don't want to take the position that, let's not get into this sense of absolute fatalism. I mean, if one WikiLeaks collapses, it doesn't mean that the entire edifice of exposure of information collapses. So while I'm very sympathetic to WikiLeaks, I don't think that the sort of sense of doomsday prophecy that information exposure itself will collapse if WikiLeaks collapses is, I think,
it's false.
Yeah.
It's false. Mr. Ranade, how can things, cables like WikiLeaks put up about India, whether it was about India and Pakistan, whether it was about domestic politics, whether it was about China, Afghanistan, various things that came up, hearsay sometimes through journalists. How can that affect a country, especially India's security? Can it?
As far as these WikiLeaks cables are concerned, I think we should keep in mind that they are actually reporting by the US mission outside to their own headquarters, and they convey information which the originator feels is accurate. That's the first part. The second is, naturally, as far as we are concerned, the Indian public or others would read those cables with great curiosity. But I think as far as India or other countries are concerned, information and the right to information assumes greater significance if it is something that concerns them. So if there are acts of corruption or inappropriate actions by the elected representatives or by the government officials, that is something that will exercise the people far more than this. And that is why I said in the initial stages that Assange, what he has done by bringing those out is he's taken on the US government. It's really between the two of them. And the others are essentially, to my mind, spectators or people who will take corrective action now in the wake of these cables being released.
Shekhar Singh, that reflexive access action that we're talking about, and you and Prashant mentioned, and so did Mr. Singh, that the US has taken, and such strong words that came out from the top officials, except for possibly the President, from Secretary of State downwards. Do you ever think we'll reach a stage like that?
Well, let's put it this way. In fact, this links up to the point you made last time that, what about unpopular decisions that government has to take? My own thinking is that, the governments change from non-democratic modes, monarchies, etc., to democracies, but the bureaucracies haven't kept pace. Now, today, people must realize that, look, it's as important to make a good decision as to have the ability to persuade the people that this is a good decision.
Correct.
There would be a 1% or 0.5% exception to that rule, and that's where I think your point is right, that the decision maker must then have the moral standing that the people say, okay, in this particular case,
even if we don't like it,
we trust it. But this is not what's happening in India. In India, in fact, what is happening is that more and more the government seems to be proving that if it's left to its own, it's going to make bad decisions for bad reasons. Therefore, even when one would think that we wish we didn't have to waste our time pulling this information out and examining it, we have to do it. The tendency still exists in the Indian government, precisely what you were saying, and we've heard the Prime Minister only a few days back saying that let's muzzle this, let's cover this. And then when there's a reaction, they step back and say, no, I didn't mean that.
I never said that.
But CBI has been taken out. Many other agencies, I know for a fact, are lined up wanting to be taken out. So their thing is, okay, if you can't change the RTI Act and weaken it because there's too much public opposition, let's quietly take out every significant organization from it. Even the sports ministry is being taken out. What's left, So this is certainly a tendency in India, and that's why we have to fight, and we have to learn from the WikiLeaks experience. See, the important thing about WikiLeaks are two. One is, if they collapse, it will embolden those people who want to launch action against transparency. I don't want that happening. Secondly, we have to learn from their experience. If in the United States of America, which has such a powerful sense of empowerment and democracy among its people, they can do that. Imagine what would happen to, say, my organization, the NCPRI, if the government decides tomorrow to turn on us.
Sure. The point that Shekhar Singh is bringing up on the bureaucracy not keeping pace with the government. Now, let me focus it on, say, the Ministry of External Affairs itself. Now, forget journalists. The ministry is seen as a very closed organization to get information. So what about the public? Are you saying the public is not interested, doesn't know why we are taking decisions in foreign policy, or should you be more open?
Look, the External Affairs Ministry is different from the other ministries because our notes do not start at the section level. The notes are initiated at the very least by the Under Secretary, sometimes the Joint Secretary, or even the Foreign Secretary, because these are political assessments. Sections are there only to support you and retrieve information, which is quite different from the ministries run by IS colleagues, where everything starts from the bottom. Therefore, notes are very, very important. So then you have a section in the Ministry of External Affairs, which is NGO. Those don't go to the sections. Those are absolutely top secret documents, which only remain in that section. But be that as it may, I think all these must be declassified beyond a certain date. It's understandable that when you're taking important decisions, you need time and space to keep it away from the public limelight, because there is something which is in the making which may embarrass your interlocutor, or which, till it is fully cooked, you don't want to bring it out, or if it collapses, you leave it there, because you're having international ramifications. But it can't be the case that something like that is permanently to be put in a grave somewhere in South Block, and no one should ever, like 2 letters of Prime Minister Nehru, which he wrote to Kennedy in '62. It's taken a journalist, Inder Malhotra, all the effort in US now, 60 years later, to ferret it down. It was whispered here that there were 2 letters, but no one's ever talked about it because they're lying in some file in the NGO section which you can't access.
Can't access. Prashant Iyengar, you said that WikiLeaks collapsing doesn't mean that's the end of whistleblowing, but the point that Shekhar Singh was bringing up there, that it will embolden governments and powers to continue to take action like this.
Absolutely, but again, I'd like to restate the same point that I made, because glorifying WikiLeaks only is in some way, in a sense, not acknowledging the labors of a range of people, Bradley Manning, etc., who were in fact the sources, and extremely courageous people. And we have got in India, we're very fortunate to have a very strong civic movement. I mean, a lot of movements, popular movements, including the NCPRI, which feed off people's courage in India. In a sense. So, if WikiLeaks, if WikiLeaks fails, it will also in some senses kind of weaken Bradley Manning, etc., and all these sources, which is a source of concern. But I don't really see, I think, especially in India, we've got a very strong culture also, sustaining the right to information.
You don't see it.
That's all.
I was in no way trying to glorify WikiLeaks, and of course Bradley Manning, an extremely important cog in this whole wheel. He is the man who is supposed to have given WikiLeaks all those cables, Iraq, Afghanistan, the US diplomatic cables, and is currently languishing in prison in the US. Well, we'll take a short break and come back and go back to London and WikiLeaks and ask him, in fact, what Prashant was saying about whistleblowers in India. Whistleblowers, is that freedom of speech necessary, or do they border sedition, is what we're discussing on the left, right and centre. Let's go to WikiLeaks spokesperson in London, Kristen Raffenson again. Kristen Raffenson, India cables that you put up on WikiLeaks that you shared with quite a lot of media organizations as well raised quite a storm about whether it was about India and Pakistan, India and China, quite a lot of internal political developments as well, as the movement against corruption led by Anna Hazare has had quite an impact even here.
Yes, and that is what we of course hope that our revelation and our publishing effort will contribute. It is fighting corruption both on a government level and on a corporate level. This is a mission that we have set out to do, and we believe it's very important that we keep this venue open for whistleblowers to submit information that exposes wrongdoing, both on the government and corporate level.
Well, one of the whistleblower mottos which WikiLeaks has also picked up is that courage is contagious. Now, I'm talking about, when we talk about whistleblowers, we've had quite a few individuals in India who have actually been threatened, who've even been killed because of what they had been doing, the right to information. They had been asking for various information from various ministers as well. What's your message to whistleblowers in India?
This is actually the reason and the rationale why WikiLeaks exists. It is to offer a secure platform for whistleblowers to get information across anonymously without sacrificing their position or even their lives. We have seen a very serious example of how whistleblowers have been treated all over the world. It is a very dangerous thing to get into. So therefore, the platform that we provide, and we will reopen for submission on November 28th, is a very important one. It is secure, it is anonymous, and people can use it to get information across which they believe are exposing corruption without putting their well-being and life at risk.
Kristen Raffenson there via video from London. We'll go back to him. Prashant, again, like you were saying, there's a strong culture of whistleblowers in India here. But do we need a platform like this so that they can be kept anonymous, or is that not some kind of a paradigm you think we should follow?
Absolutely. I think whistleblower protection is extremely essential in India.
But not this kind of a paradigm where you have some other organization who takes all the credit possibly and...
I'm not accusing WikiLeaks of taking all the credit. They're very good, on the other hand, of preserving identity where they want to, and also letting people know that it's others, that their work is built on others. But the thing is that the risk is always with a central organization like this. The moment you put out a center, it's easy for other governments, for other organizations to attack that center. Okay, the RTI Act, on the other hand, is extremely disaggregated. Okay, you don't know where. It's not one single RTI repository which is seeking information from the ministry. It's from all kinds of things. Sure. Now, getting back to whistleblower protection, I think that's extremely essential. In India, we have a very lax culture of this enforcement of rule of law. Forget the fact that large volumes, almost 60 million cases pending in criminal courts today. Sure. So the thing is that there's generally a failure of the enforcement of law, and it's very natural for people to, in that generalized condition, for whistleblowers to feel threatened. Sure. So we don't have those encouraging conditions. So just merely providing a safe haven for whistleblowers would not be a sufficient thing, but it's necessary, yes.
Just coming to you again, whistleblower protection. Apparently, the cabinet is considering a whistleblower act. I'm not sure what exactly it entails there. I remember even in the Indian of the Year awards, we had called for RTI activist families who had, at least 2 of them had been killed. What really is it that the country needs to protect whistleblowers?
See, the way whistleblowers concept is used in India is very different to what it's used in the West and in WikiLeaks. WikiLeaks and the West usually talk about whistleblowers as people within an organization
Correct.
exposing
Correct.
secrets of that
Correct.
organization. We have those also, and I think their identity protection is important, and it's also important